Let's go.
Welcome to
Coffee with Hoppies.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Let's do this!
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you're having a great day. I had a little bit of a pause there as I hit the wrong overlay buttons, but it's early and I am here. I'm excited to see you guys. We got a special episode of The Drop that is, what do you want to call this? Euro-sensitive, I suppose, as a little bit earlier in the day. So those of you who like to listen across the pond can listen to it live, or, we can get some guests like Scoom, who otherwise is generally unavailable. So excited to have the guys here. We are going to be doing a special episode real quick, so I do want to talk about that before we get started too quickly. That is, we're going to talk about Miramar almost specifically. So some of the normal format stuff we do, where we go through a bunch of topics one after another, we may not do as much because I really want to have a chance to sort of drill some things down and talk with the guys about how sort of competitive play is looking in the desert right now, because honestly, Miramar is a desert for competitive play. And I'm not just saying that like, I'm saying it kind of figuratively as well, because it doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of usage. That said, you can get the show. It's called The Dropcast on iTunes or on Podbean. You can find us at both places as well as on YouTube. Big shout out to EasyCo Mac for the logos, and Aether from Awesome for the overlays, and of course Asus Republic of Gamers for the equipment that we do the show on. All right, that said, let's do some introductions and get this thing going. On the man just above me is none other than Interrogate. He'll be joining us here. He says Interrogate on his tag, but I think that's just because Interrogate was taken, not surprisingly. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about Miramar, and it's gonna be fun.
Sounds good. Next man up, just over there behind, in front of the green screen, is a guy you're probably familiar with, Liquid Scoom. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. What's up?
I'm excited to hear your opinions. I know Liquid has been at the forefront of the Miramar's Not Ready discussion, so I'm hoping to have some good insights from you as we move forward here. And now a man from North America who's not afraid to say how he feels. A coach, well, I don't know if you're still coaching them, but used to coach Evil Geniuses. This is WTF Moses. How you doing today? You are muted, sir.
I'm still good, though.
Good. Well, good and good. That said, before we get started, something important has come to my attention, and that is that Interrogate is having a birthday today. So happy birthday, Interrogate. I don't know. Should we sing to him, or is that just something that we should?
No.
Okay.
Mercy. I have mercy on behalf of Interrogate.
Happy birthday. No, I'm kidding. I'll do it to you. How old are you today, Interrogate?
27.
27. That's not bad. That's it's a little esports old, I guess, but it's not better than me. Congratulations.
Born too soon.
Born too soon. Amen to that, man. Back when I was playing, it was all about lands for beers. Now you guys are playing for 50 grand. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. All right, that said, let's jump into this thing. We got about 40 minutes. Let's use it all to talk about Miramar. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm switching up the format. We're going to do the lightning round first. So normally we finish the show with a lightning round where everybody gives me a quick yes or no question, maybe one or two sentences to justify your answer, one after another, and then we kind of go into, and that's the end of the show. Today, we're doing it to start the discussion, and the reason for that is I want to get a baseline of where you are right now. So, the lightning round question is, Miramar, does it belong in competitive play? And we'll say it right now. Interrogate, yes or no?
Yes.
Moses?
No.
And Scoom?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a good baseline. I got one for yes, two no's. This should be pretty interesting here. Now, before we start, do you believe it needs to be in competitive play at some point? Do you think that this is something that we have to eventually get into competitive play, or can the pro scene exist on just Erangel? Anybody talk anytime you feel like it.
I think that it should be included. I think that there needs to be further tweaks to both the map and to the format So with that in mind, my opinion is that it should be included in tournaments to get a baseline for not only one side of the scene or the other, but also for casters, spectators, because ultimately, if you just take it out of the rotation and don't explain why, there's going to be a lot of like, well, where's Miramar? And that's something that I think needs to be addressed in the open through sometimes failure.
Scoom?
Yeah.
Target?
I completely agree. I think that it definitely will be in the rotation eventually. I can see where some people come from and say that right now it might not be the best, but I think the sooner the better for sure, because we need to figure out, like Moses was saying, a baseline and see if it actually can work. And if we just don't play it at all for a while, then we might not learn that quick enough.
So we have to get it there. Scoom, what do you think? Is it something that's
I-
imperative?
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I feel like Erangel has a lot of issues as well. Like, there's a lot of problems that they haven't even fixed in a while. Like 6 months ago, we told them about water suckers and stuff like that, and that's still an issue. That's still a problem about Erangel, And obviously, Miramar is more fresh, more new. We don't know certain areas. We haven't explored the whole map. We only know like the baseline. I know NA have been scrimming way more than EU in that. But I feel like even after a month of scrimming on Miramar, I feel like you still only know the baseline. You don't know the corners of each map. You don't know if there's any issues in specific areas or any bugs and stuff like that, right? So I agree with the guys.
So let's take what you just said and we'll spin off to where our sort of next topic was going. Since we all seem to agree that at some point Miramar has to be in the pool. That is something where the map exists, it should be included with competitive play. Now, you sort of brought up the idea of it's not ready because of these points, and that's what I want to ask. Is so far in every major tournament that has had their formats announced, I think there's still a couple. I know Simon was hinting that maybe the GLL is going to keep Miramar inside of the rotation, but Awesome, IEM, a few others have all said we're going to stick to Erangel to start this season out. We may discuss it at the halfway point, but at this point, no one is using it, as far as I know, officially. Why do you think that is? Is it just specifically the bugs? Is there other things playing into this? I think you touched on it a little bit, Scoom, but let's go deeper. So that the fans who are watching, because you said, Moses, we got to get this out in the open. I think a lot of fans are going to be very surprised when they tune into APL this week or they tune into IEM qualifiers and don't see Miramar popping up. So why is it that we're not going to see this in these tournaments?
I think, well, I know for a fact, I won't say specifically, but it's pretty written out there, is that an overriding authority basically instructed Miramar not to be in the rotation for ESL, for IEM. So I think that if that's the case, that's a fairly easy thing to point to if that was open. But ultimately, I think that the reason we're not going to see Miramar and the reason we should kind of explain it is that, to Scoom's point, there's already a ton of issues with Erangel. Water circles are probably the most annoying factor for both a viewer and a player to deal with. So having something like having a game-breaking issue on Miramar rear its head in a widely viewed at a PUBG standard tournament is not something that Bluehole wants, the players want, or the organizers want.
That's fair. Interrogate, do you have any opinions on why you think it's not in outside of what Moses already brought up?
I can definitely see for IEM why it's not being used, and I can get behind that because IEM was very short notice and it's coming right around the corner, and there isn't that much practice on it. But as far as the online leagues, I think and I don't want to get too much into the EU versus NA stuff, but I think the EU side takes the online leagues as more very official type leagues, whereas NA seem to use that as more of the practice for the bigger tournaments like IEM and whatever else may come, LAN tournaments. So I think that it is good to practice Miramar in these online leagues to prepare for, if these LAN tournaments come out and none of us have a say in anything and they say, okay, Miramar is going to be played, then we might not be ready for it.
I gotcha. Now, and let's touch. So we can. There's a couple things we'll spin off of. We'll probably actually get into the NAEU thing just because the OSM vote was released publicly in terms of how they asked players where they wanted to play. And there was a pretty big differential in terms of how EU voted versus how North America voted. So we may talk about that. But you brought up, Moses, the idea that, an overarching power doesn't necessarily want to have IEM put Miramar out there until Miramar is necessarily ready. The question there is, okay, so perhaps viewership. But the online tournaments are pulling in, I would say, average views between 2,000 to 7,000, which is not the craziest large, but it's not a bad amount by any means. But that's like the loyalists. Those are the people who've been watching since Erangel was a cluster as well, right? Like back in beta. All right. So it's one of those things, like that's the fan base that's used to it. So shouldn't that sort of speak volumes to this is a great place to test it? As Interrogate says, because those fans are sort of used to seeing the weird pop-ups happen or people falling into rocks or things like that? Or do you think the fact that we're in 1.0 has a much bigger impact than it did a month ago?
I think PUBG as an esport is still, and I don't say this with disrespect to anyone because I treat it as seriously as anybody else does, that to the spectator, PUBG esports is not viable still. And really what needs to be exhibited is the ability to have some level of consistency and control. And I think that with Miramar specifically, that's more possible than on Erangel, considering the terrain and the optimization, that kind of stuff. However, there still needs to be a lot done on Bluehole's side to make it ready in that sense. For the viewership, I think that there being no real stakes at this moment is a bit of an issue. So IEM being a paid tournament, large prize pool, that naturally draws in more viewers, not to mention the branding and promotion. GLL, I think, has great branding and promotion, etc. But really, if there is a time where these online tournaments move to cash prizes, I think that will bolster viewership, and thusly you have to have this information and availability for the layman or the regular player to be there as well, just to be more welcoming.
Okay. And go ahead. So did anybody else?
Yeah, to touch on that and what Interrogate was saying about like the EU side kind of treat online leagues more seriously, I guess, and not as practice. I personally, as Liquid, I'm already under an organization. I do see tournaments that don't have a prize pool kind of more as a practice. I mean, I still respect it. I still try hard as much as I can, but I understand where he's coming from. Like, I would be personally fine if PUBG Online, Awesome, or any other tournaments that maybe doesn't have a high prize pool bring in Miramar, because like you said, we need to practice it. And if we are not really practicing because IEM has a wrangle, there's a lot of downtime of practicing, because in scrims right now, I think everyone is just going to practice a wrangle because of IEM coming up. Right. I agree on that sense, but for teams that are coming up or for teams that don't have an organization, they see this platform as showcasing themselves, as try hard as much as possible, right? To get an organization, to get into the pro scene per se. So if you bring in Miramar, then everyone's kind of on the same page, and maybe they were getting the hangs of it on Erangel, but now they've gone back to 0.0 and they have to build up again. You know what I mean? Like, they were maybe close to getting an org, but now they're failing in Miramar, which is kind of fine because it's a different play style, and we're going to see that. But that's my take on it, why I feel like EU are not saying it's ready yet. It's not because of the map, it's just like time frame and stuff like that.
Okay, interesting. So you think that we talk about the bugs, but a lot of it also comes down to just time spent. Because for those of you who are watching that, you're like me and you play, I don't know, what do we play, like six hours a day because we're addicted or something like that, and half of those games are Miramar. It's different on the pro scene, right? You guys, it doesn't count unless it's a script, and that's not something that you can regularly do. Pubs are very different than competitive scrims, so they're saying they don't have as much time to practice on there, so it's harder to transitions. Think about it. In a pub, what do we have in the fourth circle? Maybe 30 to 40 people left tops. In a pro game, you're looking at, I don't know, 65 plus potentially, maybe 70 plus in that fourth circle. So it's a little bit of a different ballpark in terms of transitions. I get that. Okay, let's talk about what we need to fix to get Miramar to the list, because I think Moses brought up some viewership stuff that we can address a little bit later in terms of how do we make this more viable for viewers. And I think one of those things is adding in new maps, changing it up a little bit. So getting Miramar there, what do we need to do to expedite that process?
I personally feel like Miramar is pretty good right now in terms of like balance and like being able to play it at a competitive level. That's my opinion. and that's what I feel a lot of the North Americans think. I think one big thing to make it better could definitely be to make the vehicles a bit easier to drive. And there is some bugs with the vehicles still, like they spin out so frequent, like they're hard to control sometimes. I don't know that when you flip them, they do like insane damage when you hit it on the roof and stuff. Like things like that, I think they could fix a little bit and make the map better. But I really like the terrain and like how the map plays out. I personally think it's pretty good. So
Yeah, I agree with Interrogate, and he actually linked me. We were talking the other day, and he linked me a clip of where he just got like touched by a UAZ and he just got knocked over, and that's already super harsh in Erangel. Like, there's a lot of bugs in just getting out of vehicles and just getting hit by them. And I think in Miramar it makes it worse because already vehicles are crap. So that this makes it even worse that there could be these few bugs where you can't jump out of your vehicles or get hit by it. If that was like, if they would just reduce that, even like for it not to kill you, maybe just do a lot of damage, it would make vehicles a little bit stronger, which would make Miramar in a way more viable in that sense for vehicles.
Interesting.
So yeah.
So let me ask you this, and I include myself in these conversations because I play a ridiculous amount, and I feel, and tell me if you think this or not, to a certain extent, the vehicles right now in Miramar are a little bit more dependable in terms of not doing crazy things that I don't expect than they are in Erangel right now. Like, I feel like driving a Jeep in Erangel is a lot more tricky than driving a Miramar vehicle for what it was intended to drive, right? Because that's the thing about Miramar cars is all of them have their own purpose. The Jeep is meant to push a town through a street, or not the Jeep, I'm sorry, the van, right? It's just a tank that you take when you're desperate to move down the roads. The truck goes both ways. The Suburban's for off-roading. It's one of those things, like, it seems like every vehicle sort of has their niche. Is that a good thing, or do you think that they should just sort of across the board make it so every car drives on all terrain without any issues, sort of the way Erangel works?
I don't know if changing the vehicles for purpose. I mean, vehicles are normally just utility for transition, right? So I mean, whatever is available, you don't normally get to decide if it's this type of vehicle, this type of vehicle. You might have a Jeep and a buggy, or you might have a Suburban and a motorcycle, whatever is at your disposal. Because on Miramar, I think that the vehicle spawns are a little bit less predictable, and considering the variation with the vehicle spawns on Miramar, you might not even get one. So it's a situation where I think vehicles are need tweaking. Absolutely. I mean, like Interrogate mentioned, if you roll a vehicle, which is all too common on all maps, you could lose, a third of your life, right, depending on the situation. So that, puts pressure on you already. I think Miramar's terrain in general is fairly good. I just think that the map could use a few more landmarks specific to, like Erangel has, a military base, and so does Miramar. But because of the way the circles always pan out, you see the same cities and the same terrain so frequently that it makes it a little bit bland from a viewership standpoint too.
I gotcha. That makes sense too. Miramar seems to be defined mostly by the cities or the settlements, and then sort of how you fight around them. Whereas you're right, there's Pride Rock, by the prison. There's the swamps north of the mansion. There's these sort of geographical features that are great guidelines as well. I hadn't even thought about that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so a lot of the talk that I heard coming out of sort of the European groups early on and why Miramar's not ready is people said we need new circles, we need to fix the timing on these things. Like, the basic mechanics behind Miramar and Comp need to be adjusted. Now, and that's what they want to do. So they want to scrim it, they want to define the right circle timings, etc. North America seemed to be of kind of a different opinion. All the North America teams, a lot of them I talked to were like, no way, man, it's just learn to adjust, fix the way you play, totally different style of game. Do you think that that's something we need to figure out? Do circles need to be fixed? Do drop rates need to be changed? Do loot cycles need to be changed? A lot of people were complaining about loot a month ago in terms of how Miramar works. Like, what do you guys think about that now in context of actual landing and playing the game?
The loot definitely, yeah, I forgot about that. The loot is definitely needs to be fixed in some way. It seems like certain cities and areas have some pretty good loot, like Hacienda, San Martin, Picado. Those towns in the center, they have some nice loot. But if you start going to these small little cities around, and even like trying to split loot in small compounds, the loot is pretty horrendous. And I think they need to buff the loot in certain areas. because on the custom settings you buff the loot on everything. So like the strong cities just get even stronger, and you always kind of have that advantage. But yeah, the loot distribution needs to be fixed a bit for sure. But the circles, like I personally find the circles that we use in Erangel to be great in Miramar. I love the current settings, how they're set up right now.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that as well, I agree completely with Interrogate says. The loot table in Miramar is a little bit weird. Like in Erangel, we took kind of months to see what kind of settings we wanted, and circle settings and loot settings, and we kind of established a 1.5 AR, kind of boosted that a little bit and made Erangel better. And I think Erangel is in a really good state in terms of spreadability on loot. But in Miramar, as far as what I've played in both pub and customs, it feels like the spreadability of loot is really bad. And if you boost some like some certain settings, like Interrogate said, like I went to an Hacienda, one of the scrims, and we had I think 2 times AR, and I ended up with like 600 ammo in just Hacienda alone. Like there was so many ARs, like some specific spots it's just so much they just boost it, and it's just not viable. Like the settings we change in the custom games right now, we can't really touch it because it screws it all over. I feel like just Bluehole have to fix the initial default loot table, make it a bit more even around the map before we can actually buff anything, because we make it worse in a way. Like it's good in some towns, but it makes it worse in others. In terms of like the circle, we took, because I was one of the guys that did these scrim circles alongside Miniman and a few others in the EU Discord scrims. We took months to do these circles, like to do it for Erangel, and we went game after game. Like I remember one day we'd spend like 6 hours just jumping game after game to what timing we wanted and what size we had to make it as most viable as possible. And the reason like we kind of were like a bit iffy with Miramar is because we don't know if it's going to be viable, because there's a lot more up and down hills where maybe in Erangel you can run straight through in a circle. In Miramar, since you're going up and down, it might be slower. It could hurt you, we might have to adjust it just by a few seconds here and there. But I feel like Interrogate said that I haven't really seen any issues with the circle settings. I think it's kind of fine, maybe just some fine tweaking here or there, but at the same time, we don't want to have complete different settings for both maps. We kind of want to have it the same, right? You want to have a default amount. But yeah, I think the overall map seems fine to me, and the circle setting seems fine. It's just the looting is a bit weird.
I think the adaptation part comes not only in I mean, like if you look at the two maps on their own, the play style on one is completely different than the other, pubs and custom. So I mean, that's where the issue, I think, the hashtag adapt thing is kind of getting washed away in the greater discussion. Whereas the two maps play so differently, you do need to adapt to the different play style of Miramar versus Erangel. But the circle settings, loot settings, those are completely independent of that discussion, I think.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I will say that the circle timings discussion felt like it was a lot hotter when people were still getting to know Miramar. As we've played it more and people seem to understand the rotations a little bit better, or know, hey, I can actually drive 6 feet to the left and not hit 35 ravines. There's been less sort of we need an extra circle or longer timings there. Now, I think that's interesting you brought up the adaptability thing about the second map. And that's something that I think plays into viewership. To me, it seems like the idea of going back and forth on the maps during a tournament day. So right now, I think everybody's doing best of 4s, best of 5s. Having Miramar spread in there seems like it would help the viewers stay connected. Because right now, I don't know about you guys, 4 games of Erangel back to back to back to back seems almost like it's too much in terms of a viewer, or when I'm watching it sometimes, where you're like, I'm just watching the same map over and over. Do you think putting Miramar in there will help sort of brighten up the viewer experience, or do you think it'd be too hard to do it on the same day and we'll have to do like separate weeks for Miramar versus Erangel games? Does that make sense what I'm asking you in terms of like the online tournaments?
Yeah, and I think it will. I think the thing that I love about Miramar, and well, the reason why I want both maps to be played is because it brings that diversity, and also like different teams can do well on different maps. I don't think you'll see, well, I don't know yet, but you might not see the best teams on Erangel do the best on Miramar, or vice versa, which could make tournaments more interesting, being able to follow different teams and see like their strengths and weaknesses. Because I do think there is no real way to play both maps perfectly, but
Mhm.
I do think they do require some different skill sets on each map. Like I feel like Miramar is definitely more aim heavy and like movement heavy, like on foot and team fighting,
Mhm.
whereas Erangel used a lot more, I would say, more a bit more strategy and positioning focused and stuff like that. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
there's
it would be-
more. Sorry, there's more micro play and I guess in Miramar, and more macro play in Erangel.
I agree
Like
with that.
there's both. There's you have them in both maps, but like one of them is a bit more in one or the other, I guess. Which I agree as well.
No, I agree with that.
I think engagement management becomes much more intense on Miramar than it does on Erangel, where it's much more centric around positioning and movement. Because if your positioning is no good on Erangel, you die. If your positioning is no good on Miramar, you rotate 5 feet to the right, and your position is completely different. So it's
Right.
like, I think in that sense it does allow some teams to exhibit different strengths than others, or at least give some variety between the two sets.
And it seems like to a certain extent, where Erangel, I don't want to say it favors, but when you watch the pro teams play, it seems like Erangel really favors sort of getting to the middle, holding a good position, being able to transition out of it without too much trouble if you don't get the circle. Miramar seems to really favor sort of those teams that like to play edges or fight early and control the area around them. So far, I'm curious to see where it goes once we get enough pro games in that meta. But like you said, it's very different. I think it could be a lot of fun to watch both ways. Now, here's that question, though, to add a little more to it. You know, Avengers hanging out in chat, and he says doing 2 Miramar and 2 Erangel on the same day would be devastating or horrible. But the question is, is there going to be
Why?
a point where we move to that? Yeah, so what do you think? Should we be doing 2 and 2? Should we be doing 1 week that's all one, then the next week, which is the other? And if you do side with a week-to-week system, does that hurt you when it comes to big tournament land finals like IEM that would have to eventually be going every other map in theory? So what do you think? Should it be 2 and 2? Should it be 4 and 4 weeks apart? What format do you think would work best for the players?
Well, what's viable for a LAN? Like you can't
Right.
if you're going to include both maps, you have to do them on the same day. I think it's similar to how CS does it. I mean, you have one game on one map, another on another. I mean, they're completely different, but teams have to know both and they have to adapt.
Yeah, I think it should be split. I think, like, I don't know who asked me, but if you have, for example, in the LAN, a best of 10, and one day you have a best of 5 Erangel, and then the next day you have best of 5 Miramar, I think that's non-viable, because let's say on the first day you go back and watch a VOD and you want to, go back and see what you can change, what teams are doing. You can't really do that if the next day is going to be a completely different map, because it's a new map. There's going to be the teams are going to be split up in different areas and stuff like that, so you can't go back and watch it. So I feel like maybe doing 3 Erangel, 2 Miramar, and the next day 3 Miramar and 2 Erangel, so then you can go back and adjust, and then you see the teams adjusting to certain strats and stuff like that. I think that would be better, and you just mix it up in the game as well. Like, you don't want to see, if you're going to have in the future a lot of maps, you don't want to see Erangel. You want to see Erangel, Miramar, and then the next day split it up a bit. I think it would just be, you have to think about the viewers. Like, we can't think about the players all the time.
And I do think that there's a danger here, right? Like, and I think, Moses, you run a pretty big YouTube channel, and the first thing you learn when you start making content is, in the reality, that the reason we're all here and doing what we do and playing a game that we love is because viewers watch and they allow us to do this. So it's one of those things where I think we also have to step back and say, sometimes, what's best for the viewer experience, not what's best for us in terms of how we like to play, because at the end of the day, if the viewers stop watching, we don't get to play for, we just get to go back to playing for fun, which is great, but not nearly as great as getting paid to play for fun. So I think that is something that is worth consideration when we talk about these formats. Let's take a little bit of a spin here, because I do want to not just shit on Miramar nonstop. I think it's a great map. I honestly like playing it almost more than Erangel personally in my squads. What do you guys like about the new map? What do you think is cool for competitive play? What excites you about it? What potential is there? Tell me what really gets you excited about this thing.
No water.
I mean, there's
Water
one
is
specific,
terrible.
there's one circle, right, in Miramar that it goes far east, like Hadeswater. I've seen it a few times. I haven't experienced it, though.
Right.
But,
I think for me personally, it's that on Erangel, if you get a bad circle, you go from having a percentage chance to win to having a very dismal chance to win, especially in the late game. Whereas in Miramar, even if you get a bad circle, you have a lot of terrain options to at least get close enough to an enemy or push them in a way that you can make it a fight even though it might not be the highest viability. I think that's something that's great. And just the variation in movement and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it can be just as frustrating if you're getting flanked constantly. So I think Miramar's got a lot more. I would like to see some more city fighting and stuff like that, just because it puts a lot of pressure on the people. So pressure's good.
I agree with Moses. Like, I think on Miramar, there's some really cool like ways to outplay teams and do kind of fancy stuff. Like, I wanted to bring this up as an example. In one of our scrims, Tempo Storm had pulled a really cool flank on us, and they actually had great circle positioning. But since there's so much cover and you can move so easily, they were able to wrap all the way on the other side, outside of the blue area, or not outside of the blue zone, but outside of the white area, and flank and do a good outplay. And I don't think you can see that much of that in Ergo. Like, obviously there's some stuff, but in Erangel, like, if there's a wide open field, you can't really just run around and flank a team or do anything special like that. So I think there's some cool moments in Miramar that can really show like a good team skill and how they can think.
For sure.
There's definitely more places to vanish in Miramar, especially in the first-person perspective. It's like you're shooting at a team, and all of a sudden the team is just gone, and then a minute and a half later they're on a mountain range behind you, and you're just like, how did you do that? So I think that adds a lot, whereas Erangel, you catch somebody in a bad spot, and you're right, they got to run across the field, there's no way around it. So as Moses said, sometimes that's just the end of their team because the circle is making them make a bad push. So I do love that about Miramar. I'm excited about it. I think the people who are watching are excited about it. They just need to sort of see how we played as a pro scene. Practicing it. You guys have mentioned scrims a few times. Here's my question. So I know that Interrogate, you probably scrim a lot with the North American groups. I know that Scoom's heavily invested in the EU scrim groups. We don't get together as much as we probably would like to in terms of like play tests and stuff. So you guys have been a little bit separate in terms of how you guys are testing out Miramar and Erangel. Are teams playing it? So let me ask you this. In the North American scrims, what percentage of your games would you say take place on Miramar?
Well, we were playing it, but I mean, everyone's just gonna follow the pack. Like, there's no point to play Miramar right now because IEM is obviously all Erangel, Awesome is all Erangel, so like we just completely stopped playing it.
So prior to the stop, let me ask you, what was your percentage split?
We were doing 3 Miramar, 2 Erangel.
Okay, and then Scoom, prior to sort of the format management stuff that happened in the last week or two, what was the split over in the EU scrims?
I mean, I can start from the beginning when the map came out on the 21st. We initially scrimmed it. I think we scrimmed it in one specific day, all games.
Okay.
And the initial impression of Miramar we didn't like at the very beginning. We did not like it. Like, just the whole map we didn't like. Not like that we didn't think it was ready or something like that. It was just we didn't like it, right? So we kind of cut it down to we did 4-1 split. Like, we did 4 Erangel, 1 Miramar. But then with those 1 games, teams started to like it, and it's kind of snowballed, and NA were like super in favor of it, and all these leagues were coming out. It was like, we need to practice it more. Like, we need to give more feedback than just one game per scrim day. So we put it into 3 Miramar and 2 Erangel at one point. We had it running at that for around 2 weeks until, like Interrogate said, like, IEM is a full Erangel now.
Would you guys say that your attendance was just as good for Miramar as it was for Erangel during that phase? Like,
no, we managed it wrongly, because what we did was we did 4 Erangel and then the last one was Miramar. And what happens in scrims is probably, I don't know if in NA is more or less the same. The 5th game is normally the Joker game, or the, everyone's kind of tired, or it's like it's not that we don't take it serious, but it's less serious in a way, right? Because it's the last game of the day and people just don't care if they die because they're just going to go to sleep or something like that, you know what I mean? So we had that as our last game and people didn't like it, so it was a bit more trolly in that sense, which is not what we do in EU, but that gave it bad feedback. They
do it in NA too.
Yeah.
Last game of the day is always the mess around game.
Yeah, exactly. So that was an issue, right? It was Miramar as the last game of the day, so it was our fault.
Interrogate, did you guys notice attendance drops for Miramar, or did you have more people there for Miramar, just out of curiosity in terms of...
No, I think we had the same attendance.
Okay.
And what VZ said in chat, I believe is true. I didn't remember, but we were playing Miramar like heavily at the start. because we wanted to like learn the map as fast as we could because we already kind of knew Erangel, so
Right.
we wanted to get as much practice as we could on it.
Okay, so we had because all of us have like thousands of hours on Erangel, so obviously that Miramar base has to get built. That said, you both brought this up. IEM doesn't have it. Osm doesn't have it. You know, Erengel's becoming the prime map. Miramar's falling off until people feel it's ready. So North America's not scrimming it as heavily or at all right now because they're prepping for IEM. Have you guys sort of dropped it as well over in the European scrims? Okay.
Yeah, we've dropped it.
So then that, I guess, is my next question. If the map is not in the tournament pools, where is the incentive to get better at the map so that we can put it into the tournament pools? Because one of the reasons you brought up for not doing it was you said we need more time on it, but why? Where are you going to spend time on it? Because like Osm's now running a season, so playtests are probably going to die. You know, once all the seasons start, the tournament playtests disappear, which means that the only option for learning is the scrims. So I guess that's my question: is how do we get these things to link up? Because right now it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
exactly what a lot of people on NA were saying is if there's no tournaments that are running it, no one's gonna play it, which means we're never gonna get the proper like base built on if it's competitive or not.
It's similar
Yeah.
with it's self-fulfilling, right? Like you said, it feeds into itself essentially. So that's fairly well explained. But ultimately, I think what needs to happen is a GLL, a PUBG Online, not necessarily Awesome, at least immediately. Just have to come together. I know. Fausto has said in public forums that tournament organizers need to come together and determine a rule set for all the tournaments, and that's fine. But at the same time, there's been such significant feedback from teams not to include Miramar that organizers are looking at potentially having an entire region pull out of a tournament. At least that's been kicked around in discords and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's serious, but realistically, it just needs to come to the online tournaments and then just go through the growing pains similar to what everyone did with Erangel and the growth of the competitive scene at this point.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, I don't think any, like, I know EU were heavily on Erangel, but I don't think if Miramar was introduced in Awesome, like, you would see EU teams leaving and anything like that. But I do agree on your points, like, where are we going to practice it if the IEM is going to do Erangel, Awesome is going to do Erangel? We're obviously going to be scrimming for those LAN tournaments, and there's no time or space left for practicing Miramar, which I kind of agree, which I don't know what to do. I guess just include it into these tournament leagues. I guess we just have to adapt on square one, everyone, and go from there. I guess that's the most logical sense in this case. I think IEM going for Erangel was the right choice still, in my opinion.
For now,
But, for now, just because the map is new and we don't know if there's any bugs and stuff, I feel like if new maps come in the future, we can't just put them into the competitive circuit instantly, right? We have to let it, at least maybe one of these lower community tournaments run it, see how it's running, and then build it from there. But like just introducing it for an IEM or whatever other tournaments are coming in the future, that would not be the most ideal.
Well, and I get that for the big lands, and when you only have a qualifier and then you show up for the big show, that sort of makes sense right now. I can say this though, I know that a lot of the online tournaments want Miramar in the mix because it's theoretically going to help with viewership, keep things a little bit fresh. We did a 4 or a 5 game cast 2 weeks ago, or last week, I think it was on Awesome. And I had multiple people send me messages who are like friends of mine who like the game and are trying to get into competitive say, I got really bored after the 3rd game. It just felt the same the whole time. So I think some of the online tournaments want to do that. But I have heard, Moses touched on it, and it's been sort of the elephant in the room, that there have been teams specifically that have said or threatened, we're not going to play if you put Miramar in the first stage of this new season. And all these organizations, they're worried, right? Because, I mean, you figure, you just named them all. GLL, PUBGO, Awesome. None of them wants to be the group that has, some of the top teams pull out, and then the other league changes their format. They get all the big names. It's sort of a weird catch-22, I think, that we're stuck in right now until everybody just agrees as players. Like you just said, Scoob, let's just fucking do it. And the online tournaments, like, I don't want to say they don't matter. They matter to teams that want to get signed, but for some of you guys, like you said, they're just they're big practice.
I mean,
It'll
to
matter.
touch on
It'll matter when there's cash involved. That's I guess like
Yeah.
because that was the big thing right now is that Bluehole wasn't allowing these organizers to run cash tournaments. When that changes, I mean, when cash incentive comes in, I mean, from an organizational standpoint, I'm not sure what Liquid expects or what Totality expects when it comes to possible revenue generating activity. Is that it's just going to draw more interest, or even if the teams don't want to play, there will be people who will.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that as well, like I initially was against Miramar, right? I started as an against Miramar, like not campaign, but I was like vocal about it. But I went into I'm in a neutral stance and I'm more into a Miramar just because I feel like we're dividing ourselves too much, and then like all this NA and EU and stuff is just annoying in my opinion. And we're already dividing ourselves already against Asia where they play in TPP. Like we shouldn't be dividing ourselves in Western scene. Like I would have been perfectly fine if any tournament organizers right now include Miramar, just because I feel like we should just unite and be on the same page and things, but set a rule set for the future to things that will happen to this. We have a general idea what's going to happen. When the new maps, let's say we have a timeline when it will be introduced in circuits and stuff like that, or like to have further practice into it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like this map was just introduced. NA was scrimming it. We weren't partially scrimming it. And our idea was that we needed at least 2 to 3 months to practice it minimally, just to see the bugs and just to play the map out, so when we do play on a competitive setting, we can show the viewers how to play instead of just like, boom, it's there and we all are like running around naked, like headless chickens. That's just my thoughts on it, but yeah.
Maybe, and here's a revolutionary concept. Maybe the individuals who make the map should maybe solicit opinions from someone else, other than their internal development team when making these things. Bring in a couple of Scum, interrogate to say, hey, here's the new map. Here's what it looks like. What do you guys think? And then it's not just, hey, here's the new map, enjoy it, see you later. It's there needs to be more partnership there too, I think.
I think that's true, but I also would contest that part of the, I don't know, to me, the awesomeness of the new map idea is that it potentially breaks us away from old guardism, right? The idea that if you brought in a bunch of top players who are already on top teams and said, help us fix this map, the map would be very similar in playstyle to the already existing map, wouldn't it? Having a team that doesn't take that feedback necessarily completely may create a totally new meta that a lot of teams have to adapt to. Which
I'm not saying tell us how to make our map. Gotcha. I'm saying here's the new map. What do you think could be like? Does this work for? Is this something that you could see yourself enjoying as a player, as a competitor, that kind of thing? More so like an advisor or just someone to give some advice or feedback, because ultimately the dev team will do what they want. So it's and there's bigger issues there too. So we have that issue with the Wrangle as well. Like, I mean, we've been trying to get feedback for a Wrangle for a while now, and they just introduced in 1.0 the mansion forest, which I think was a bit too much. I feel like they should remove some trees from the mansion and add it around the map just to balance it out. But you wanted more trees, you got them in one.
I contend. I think that they're going to do more. I think that was a test, and I think that we're going to see more changes to Erangel as it goes along. That'd be pretty cool. Because I think that's what they do. They're going to find those spots where there's sort of dead space and fix them up a little bit. That said, I do think that there's a value to this. It seems to me like over the last few weeks, the sort of chaos, the Twitter throwdowns, the back and forth between NA and EU have been dramatic, but have also been sort of helpful. I feel like we've got a lot more players who are sort of saying, you know what, maybe Miramar in the online leagues is a good idea. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't sure it was going to happen at the midseason to Ozm. I feel like there's a chance that it might get added as the season goes through. Do you think, so when Ozm released the vote, this is for the viewers because you guys probably don't read this, everything that comes out. They asked back on the 11th, or I guess it was a little before that, so beginning of January, should Miramar be in the map pool? 9 of the teams in the EU of the 38 said yes. 28 of the 39 North American teams said yes. So there was a huge discrepancy in terms of North America wanting it. Only 11 of their teams said no. And EU, who is polar opposite, literally almost exactly opposite. Do you think that count has changed significantly over the last 2 weeks, Scum, or do you think it's still pretty stalwart that EU is going to continue to say, just keep this out of the leagues? Because I think it sounds like you've made kind of a 180 recently.
Not a complete 180, but I am almost there. I mean, kind of, yeah. I feel like if you do a poll now, I don't know. I'm. This is just me. I think the rest of you are still a bit more close-minded about it and they're still against Miramar. And I understand their points, and I have the same points as them. But I'm just more like I just want to unite. I'm sick and tired of this, like,
Yeah.
backlash and stuff like. I don't like, as a community. If we want to grow the competitive scene, we need to be on page. And if Miramar, like Interrogate says, it's a good competitive map. They've been playing it for a month now. And if these online leagues introduced it, that's a way to practice it. I'm down for that. Like, personally, I don't know if the rest of you, but you have one more vote on the yes side for me.
Nice.
I think it is getting fairly close. I think everyone's getting pretty close in accepting it. I think I'm hoping in about a month or so that we can make a decision on it. But I don't think we should let it go too far without trying it, because realistically, like, we haven't even got to try it really in any tournament. Like, scrims aren't that 100% serious. People take the leagues much more seriously than scrims. So I think it'd be great to try it out sooner than later in a league setting.
Yeah, in scrims we fight more. There's more fights. So in Miramar, when you have more fights, they're not playing too safe and they're gonna maybe caught off guard and stuff like that. But in tournaments, they're gonna play more safe. So we'll see really how it will be played, right? We don't really know yet.
Yeah, and really, I think this downtime and the gap between Oakland 1.0 and now has actually been a little bit longer than we all kind of thought it would be, with just nothing really happening, and really the whole, to speak a little bit on the whole Twitter backlash. I think that some tone definitely gets lost in that type of communication, but really it is just a discussion. If any one of us takes to Twitter to ask a question, it's only out of curiosity. I don't think that.
Right.
I think that the adversity between NA and EU is not only overblown, but clearly not existent. So I don't think it exists to the extent that people might think. But I do believe that now, with all these leagues kicking off at almost the same time, that 2 out of 3 having Miramar on them will really lead to a lot better discussion, which is more backed by experience and data than just, well, this is what we think versus this is what we think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now I do, and I want to, as we're wrapping up here, we're just about out of time. I want to ask this question, and maybe it's a little too much for some people or not. When we talk about invites, direct invites to these big tournaments, LAN tournaments, for instance, IEM's got 3 from North America, I think 3 from Europe. I think that's how the breakdown's going. Big name teams with large sponsors, they don't stress out as much about those invites, right? Because they're established. Liquid, you're pretty much always in consideration right now when it comes to these big tournaments, getting invited or at least being at the top of consideration. Some of these other teams that don't have sponsors, is that part of the reason that maybe they're pushing so hard to keep Miramar off until they're ready? Because they need to win these online tournaments in order to get to those sponsors and get to those LANs, and that's harder to do with a map you don't know as well? Because it seems like some of the established players are more open to it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I definitely see that a team that wants to perform really well, and I've heard it and I've seen it in Discords. Like, people want to perform well, and they might be afraid that they can't perform well on Miramar because it's so new, which I can understand if you're not super established. Like, obviously a team like, say, Optic, they're not going to be too worried about having the best performance because they're in a great org or whatever. Like, I can see that argument for sure.
Yeah, I can see it too. I mean, it depends what type of team you are. Let's say you're struggling in Erangel. Let's say you're the lower team, you don't have an org right now. Maybe Miramar will help you because now everyone's on the same page and they're not so established. But maybe a top team right now, let's just name a few, just to want to name, for example. I don't think Gambino have an org right now, right? Do they? Or is that the org? Or is that a normal name?
That's just yeah. They don't.
That's the name. They're really in the top of the team. They just won 2 tournaments on Erangel, right? Maybe their specific team, they were like, we just won 2 tournaments in Erangel. IEM is coming up. We're gonna destroy an Erangel, right? Like, if they just bring it to Miramar, they were like, oh, we have to come up with new strats. It's gonna be tougher for them, right? So I understand that point, but I don't think that's the case. But it's a reasoning behind it for sure.
Yeah, and I should clarify. I'm not saying that the brand gets you invited. I'm saying that the brand recognition and the establishment of your team and the fact that you're consistent performers and your brands are standing with you because you're not having any issues and all that other stuff does help out. I mean, we could argue that there have been invites because of organizations, but those organizations sign people because they're consistent and they recognize their skill level. So I guess.
Well, there was no precedent set either prior, right? There was no precedent for. I mean, you had the online tournaments and stuff like that for the first major LAN. You kind of look at it like, okay, well, let's. There's lots of available parties. Let's bring some in on an invite basis. But now that there's been a precedent kind of set, and there will continue to, prestige will continue to be built over time. So that'll make things easier for invites.
Absolutely.
To touch on invites, I feel like if they're gonna do invites in the future, I don't know if they're doing it right now. They should just be LAN based. Like, for example, they said top three. They said free EU and free NA. It should be the top 3 NA and the top 3 EU teams that performed at IEM. It shouldn't be based. Yeah, the previous LAN. You can't just take it out of online leagues and stuff like that into effect, in my opinion. Because then it's like objective. Because maybe a team did good in this league, a team did bad in this league, and then like it's not fair. But at least if you say top 3 in LAN, then everyone can agree on it, and it's fair play,
Yeah, I agree with that.
With a unified rule set too.
Yeah,
with a unified rule set.
It has to be a unified rule set. I would also say that one of the problems we have now, though, is our LANs are pretty far apart, and that could cause an issue. The online tournaments, I know other games do this too, where the 3 months between LANs, that's really the best way to see if a team continues to perform, because we're going to see this. Everybody still loves PUBG, but in about a year, teams are going to do well at a LAN, and then they're going to take a 3-week vacation to Thailand and then come back and not be able to play at the same level. And then the question is, do they deserve that invite if they can't compete in the online league? So we're not there yet.
It's the same as a major in CSGO, right? They have the Legends, which is the top 8 of the previous tournament. And the majors for majors a long time. It's 3 or 4 months as well.
Right.
So they can treat it in that sense. I like that system.
I like the idea of blending the two. So people who perform multiple rounds and then bring in online performers as well. Okay, so that's about all the time we have for today. I'd love to keep going. I love talking about PUBG, but I want to respect your guys' time. I know you have a lot of stuff that you need to get done. I'd like to take a nap since I took the day off. My kids are coming home in 2 hours, so I love napping. I'm old. That's just what we do. So before we sign out, I do want to give you guys one chance to do any shout-outs, call-outs, or just, get a soapbox before we call the end of the show. So we'll start with Interrogate and just go around the circle. Interrogate, any last words for us before we leave?
I guess, just if you want to see the North American side of the competitive, you can follow my Twitter. I post like a lot of videos and clips and stuff from tournaments or scrims or whatever. Update there. And shout out to Total, my new team I just joined recently. I hope we do well in the coming year.
There's no hope. There's only do or do not, and I believe in you, Interrogate. If you want to find him, it's not Interrogate on Twitter. It's at Interrogate, INTERRO, great. And you can find him there for North American news. Anything else, or are you good?
I'm good.
Cool. Let's go to Scoob.
I don't have much to say. You can follow me on Twitter as Liquid Scoob for the EU side of content. But another thing I want to touch, I'm going to be showcasting tomorrow the GLL third-person duos. It's just going to be a fun event, so it's going to be my first doing the casting, so it's going to be fun.
I'm jealous. I love that. I love third person. It's my secret passion. So
geez.
Hey, but no, here's the deal though. When you're casting it tomorrow, don't shit all over it, okay?
I'm gonna shit on it. They told me I can shit on it.
People like it. The casuals love it.
I too am casting GLL tomorrow, and I too am gonna shit all over it. So there you go.
Well, hey, fans of third person, you let GLL know to hire people who sometimes like to play third person next time, because this shitting on third person's got to stop. They're a good group of people. They're nice guys, okay? They just hide in bushes. What do you want from them? That said,
hide in bushes and full of cheaters.
The cheaters, holy shit! Though I will tell you this:
punch out Maverick.
Oh, it's gnarly. So I switch every season. I play one season first, one season third, just because I enjoy it that way. It's insane. Like third person cheating is crazy balls. Anyway, Moses, what do you got to say before we log out?
Nope. You can catch me casting almost all the tournaments this season. I'll be doing Awesome, GLL, and PUBG Online. So you can follow me on Twitter at WTFMoses, and on Twitch, same. And check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/WTFMoses.
I heard Moses has some other cool teams that he's joining in the near future, so I'm super excited about that. We'll talk more about that as time passes on. His YouTube, where's your YouTube again, Moses? Where can these people find your YouTube videos?
YouTube.com/WTFMoses.
And also, he's been streaming a ton more, so definitely check him out. He's almost as good as Choco Taco. Getting there. No, I'm just kidding with you. That said, it was a great show. I appreciate everybody coming on. You can find me at Toffees TV, and I will give one thing before we sign out. I don't love doing tons of plugs. That said, to keep the show running and be able to do this as well as some other things, I have to make about $25 a month on the Patreon to sort of pay the bills. We're currently at 13, so if anybody is willing to head over to patreon.com/Toffees and donate $1 a month or something like that, you get perks. I'm making bumper stickers, all kinds of random stuff that you can sort of have for your donations, but you can help keep the show going as well as pay for things like when I have to get a babysitter so I can do a European time slot, and that's the kind of stuff we want to do a little bit more of. So go check it out, patreon.com/Toffees. You can find the show on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or anywhere else, and on YouTube as well. So remember, if you are watching on iTunes, give us a review so that we can get it ticked up on that search bar. Guys, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you to all of you guys for joining me. I appreciate it. Hopefully we got some good information out there to the public who maybe doesn't know as much as we do about what's going on behind the scenes with why Miramar is not showing up. And I also hope that in a couple of weeks it will start to make that rotation relatively soon. That said, have a wonderful evening. Thanks again to Ozm and Asus for helping make this possible. And as always, Toffees out.